You see, I'm very careful to get into this, and I really feel it's important to discuss. Is that we all evolving here, right? And my feeling, although I stand to be corrected, is that we evolved from primates, right? We have evolved from, dare I say it, monkeys. Now people say that's blasphemous. How can you dare say that? That's an insult to the human being. And it goes against what the Bible says, and it's just sheer stupidity, and or like you're an ignoramus or whatever it might be. How is that divine? And my argument is that it is divine. I think it's the best possibility that there is that we've had available. I'll tell you why. Is because if we understand that man or woman came from the primates, it's that this has been a journey of consciousness that's been going on for a very long time. There's been an evolution here, right? That man has come literally out of nature, okay? Has evolved, right? Has survived, has strived as well in leaps and bounds, and has made the journey from the animal into the human. And now hopefully what we're talking about now is the transformation, the transmutation, or the transcendence into spirit, right? From matter into spirit. And that's the whole journey, right? From the animal kingdom. Now, I'm not talking about the Big Bang here, folks. I'm not talking about that if you believe in evolution, that you believe in the Big Bang. Now, I'm not believing in any of this. This is just hypothesis, theories as well, or whatever it is. And I'm saying that there's an intelligent design to all of it, right? But anyway, so I'm not saying on the one hand that it's just a random walk, or that no, I'm talking about that it is intelligently designed. But I think that it's an amazing thing that we can consider ourselves coming from, our cousins or primates, in a sense, because it shows firstly that we are part of nature. It shows that we have nature inherently built into our genomes, right? Into our DNA, into our intuition, into our senses, into our biology. We hardwired to nature. We weren't made separate from this planet. We weren't, there wasn't a scientist God in a way that, so to speak, that created Adam out of the sand and Eve out of the rib, and then, put us perfectly placed, human beings on this planet that didn't evolve from this planet. There's big problems with that idea, folks. There's massive, because again, we feel like outsiders. And if we feel as human beings as outsiders and not part of nature, right, then we're going to destroy nature, and we're going to destroy ourselves at the same time. It's very, very problematic, right? It's better that we know, or we feel that we come from nature, right? And say again, some people will say, some maybe, it was extraterrestrial, visited us a long time ago and slept with the daughters of man, as it says in the Bible. The giants slept with the daughters of man. In other words, there was some kind of crossbreeding going on, and evolution that was, happened, or DNA tampering. I mean, you can get very far out in all of its possibilities, and maybe some people were modified and other people weren't. That makes more sense to me as well. Or that, some continents, some people or from on some continents evolved in a different manner because of the climates, right? And others evolved slower and faster than others. And that makes perfect sense for me of what's going on in the world today, right? Now, if you can read between the lines of what I'm saying again, like, Africa is the cradle of humankind, okay, where, the evolution came from, um, Neanderthals. I mean, I know it sounds bizarre, but again, let me just say this as well, is that if we can, sort of anticipate or think that we might come, that we maybe are primates, then we understand that we have barbarianism in us, right? because again, primates are violent to one another. I mean, the chimpanzees are really they kill each other, they beat each other up, right? It's dominance completely. Okay, it's sometimes just eat or be eaten. I'm saying in a metaphor, not that they really eat each other, but some do, right? Some really do. In fact, if I remember, I'll try and find that clip of a hairless ape somewhere in a zoo. And if you don't look at the face of the ape and you just see the body, you would say this is an extreme, very well built man. Like you would not see, you would have to take a few looks and say that is that a monkey? Like, is that an ape? Is that a primate? Like you wouldn't, it's very unusual, very unusual. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I have monkeys visiting me often here in my house, macaque monkeys, and the genitals, the male will have an erect, member, and it looks the same. It's got the testicles. It's the same, although it's red. It's sort of not pink, sorry, but it's red. And he gets erected when he's sort of being aggressive or chasing a female or something like that. It's amazing to actually see. Um, bizarre, yes, indeed. But that we know that there's a barbarianism in us, right? That we are barbaric, and that we are tyrannical, and that we will do what we need to do in order to survive, right? And that we're hardwired in a way for sex, okay? Which is what the world is mostly, moved on a massive level. We don't realize it a lot of the time, but that's what it's about, passing on the genes. We are obsessed with sex, right? I think that, the establishment has used our animalistic nature to keep us de-evolved, right? That's what I think. I mean, that's why sex it's part of procreation, but it's been hijacked in a way and been seen as a main priority in life. I mean, in an very unhealthy way, to become obsessed about it, right? To be consistently attracting a mate, if you will, or something or other, and many other things as well, desires, whatever it is. We have been treated as if we are primates, right? That is the response, right? Through wars, through pogroms, through land grabs of other people or whatever it is. It's just beat up take advantage of, beat up, push power plays or whatever it is. That's exactly what this world is based on, right? I mean, not the nature of it, but what it's been made out to be, right? In that way, the devil takes the highmost. That he who has the most toys wins. That's exactly what happens in the primate kingdom. It's the one with the biggest resources or the biggest gang of troops, the one who controls, from up above. That's the way it works. And so I think that we've de-evolved completely, like I've said before, right? And what I'm saying is, at the same time, is that there is this sort of very sensitive point that we are in right now, of this process of evolution. Like I'm saying, some people are going more in de-evolving, and others are evolving more so with empathy and compassion, right? Which I've mentioned before. So I think we're in a crucial time right now, and time will tell to a certain degree, but that's something else. So again, this is because we can't use the sociology, the physiology, the psychology of primates on human beings, or human beings and according to primates, right? We at a loss here. We struggle. We're disconnected from, I feel our history and where we come from, right? And that's a big problem. And again, for people, it's like uncomfortable to think, well, am I a monkey? And I say, so what if you're a monkey? So what if you're a primate? It's like, well, you're a woman or you're a man. Well, this is the body, this is the arm, and this is the vehicle that we use, in this dimension. What's the difference? Does it make you feel any better if you're designed by, it was all designed by God in the intention of it. It's all God unfolding in a sense, but like, does it make you feel better about yourself? Like, how? What difference does it make? I don't think it makes it real. I don't know. Maybe we can have this discussion, but I don't think it really makes a big difference. We're here to, it doesn't take away from what we're doing here, why we're here in the first place, and what's the story, and things like that. I think it makes it even more interesting. Again, I think it shows us a very long a history of evolution and a whole story, a narrative that goes very, very far back, you know, and again can really help us with our own understanding, our inner understanding, our own inner psychology. Because again, we are resembling right now, the same structure, social structure, psychology, I would even say, as that of our primate cousins. I certainly think so. We just work with ideology now, that's why people are easier to control, because essentially any troop that's more than, I think, 200 is very hard for the alpha male to control. And so, that's a bit of a problem. But if you create ideologies, you say if you create countries, right, and then people can serve the country, then you can band together as concepts. So we are hardwired into concepts or cultures in a way, and differences, and then it's mine and yours and our rights, whatever it might be, so we're fighting. That's why it's easier to send one monkey over to another other monkey's country and kill them, for, like soldiers. That's what a soldier does. It's like, well, you need to defend your country so you can go and kill these other people. But it's like, hold on a minute, if you see them as just people that you're killing and not from a religious or ideological point of view, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't storm into their houses and shoot innocent men and women and children, because you're told to defend your country or something like that. Right? So it's ideology that's plagued us in that way, I would say, and all these other problems. But again, for me to have understood more so about the continent that I live on and why it seems to not be able to have evolved in the same progression as other continents or other countries, is because of its stage of evolution. Right? And again, people might say you're out of line, you being racist or something like that, and I'm not being that at all. I don't believe in any as such. I believe that we need to understand what we are dealing with here so we can all understand each other a whole lot better, and we can understand the strengths of one another and the weaknesses of different cultures and different races, right? That we can understand, and say, well, okay, this is that, just as much as sort of like the younger generation can teach the older generation about cell phones and technology, and the older generation can, says, look, we don't know, grandchildren teaching their grandparents about a cell phone, right? The grandparent says, you're right, I don't know, I don't understand this, right? This is way advanced to my understanding technologically. It doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent or I don't have a good heart or a spirit or I'm evil or I'm bad or anything like that. I just don't know. This is way beyond me, right? And so the 10-year-old child can teach the grandparent more about a cell phone or a laptop or PC or something like that than the grandparent could ever teach their grandchild of that technology in certain situations. And so, the grandparent can teach the grandchild so much more about life than the child could ever understand, especially at such an infantile level, right? And the child needs the direction of the grandparent. And so we understand these different positions, and neither is higher or neither is lower, and all is respected. But when it comes to evolution, right, and ways of westernized thinking and cultures around the world, we've all expected them to adjust at the same rapid rate and understanding and being able to conduct themselves accordingly, when it doesn't work that way, when some cultures are more left brain and others are right brain, some more lateral thinking, so others are not so lateral, or vertical thinking or diagonal, or whatever it might be. Some are more emotional, others aren't so emotional. Some are more calculated. I mentioned this before, maybe. We've got to appreciate our differences, right? And I appreciate the differences of the people in this country. And I appreciate where they're holding. Otherwise, I wouldn't understand what's going on, you know. And so I try and understand. I mean, saying, but again, people, it just gets hair raising, and you're not allowed to say these things, and it's a disgrace. And I'm saying it's not at all. I don't look at it that way. But this is the problem, I think, with racism. I really do think it is, because we just don't understand that we are differently, at different timelines. No one is better than anybody else. A baby is no better than, an 8-year-old is no better than an 8-year-old month baby. That's not what we're talking here. But I know that a lot of the people of this country don't understand politics, right? And that's why they're completely taken advantage by the government. And the government knows it. The government are taking advantage of their own people. I mean, it generally happens all the time, But, that's the problem. That's why you got corruption here. That is it's everywhere. But here it's particularly bad, particularly aggressive in a way. And you've seen it. You've seen it like in certain movies, with Sierra Leone, in these Blood Diamond movies, where you see these evil men, and they just sort of, machete, they cut off the children's arms or wrists or something like that, to just show their power, right? It's barbaric. It's absolutely barbaric. Like when I tell the stories here in South Africa about what happens, right? Just the other day, an 8-month-year-old, well, a 23-year-old woman, 26-year-old woman, pregnant, 8 months old, hung from a tree, potentially by her boyfriend. The barbarianism, in a way, hard to understand, right? And whatever it is. And so, and then also, again, you have a minority of white folk that that own a lot of the economy. They control a lot of the economy. Of course they're going to. They got a head start. They got such a head start, and they think completely differently to majority of the people of South Africa, right? And they've been thinking this way for a very, very long time. And so you can't build a rocket ship, right? Or you can't be on an aeroplane. Let's say you're flying on an aeroplane, you're the pilot, and you're an engineer as well, so you know how the whole thing works. And then you go up to one of the passengers who doesn't, just got on the plane for the first time. They've been flying for 20 minutes, and you come and you say, look, here, come, take over the cockpit, come fly the plane, right? They don't have a clue what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing, And you can't expect them to know what they're doing. And that's the problem. A lot of the time when it comes down to not understanding the different degrees of evolution on this planet, that you expect other people to be up to date and know how and whatever, when they can't. When some people morally work on a very different way, they work more in a primate way, some, and whatever it is. There isn't, it's a different mindset, and so I get very frustrated in this country. I really do, because people don't understand what's going on. People don't know how to address this problem of so-called, well, it is inequality in that way. I mean, not that I don't believe really in inequality, because I think it's all spiritual. But we're not assisting and helping others at all, because we're not understanding where we are holding individually, each on an evolutionary level. The ones that have got more of an evolutionary upgrade in regards to gunpowder, I've taken advantage over those that hadn't invented gunpowder. That's been a clear-cut case from the very beginning. That's what it's been controlled. The one who figured out, how to use technology better, right? How to move rocks and cut down trees at a faster rate, or whatever it is, or burn petroleum, or rip it out of the ground. Those are the ones that are going to control the rest of the world. Those are the ones that can go to war, the ones that have nuclear power. I mean, for heaven's sake, folks, this is so obvious. This is so obvious. And that's what the world is governed by. Few individuals that whether they have ties back into history and lineages of kings and queens and emperors and whatever it is, and bloodlines or whatever it is, they were the ones who figured it out. Figured out how to do the gunpowder. figured out, evolved a little bit faster, but more in an aggressive manner. And then, they made everybody else their slaves around the whole world. All creeds, all races, whatever. That's it. That's what they've done. Right? But we can't look at it that way. We can't see the alpha male. We can't see the dominator in this culture, right? And I'm saying it's a worldwide culture. And why they're so good at what they do is because they're so advanced. They're so much more advanced. I mean, they could be, like they said, the establishment could have technology that is 1,000 years in advanced, or whatever it is. High intelligence, we have no idea. Well, how far do you want to stretch the idea of what the establishment is? You know what I mean? Does it go, into, you know what I mean, other dimensions or something like that, or whatever it is? I mean, but this is the problem. We don't see. We, we can't see it, and we don't understand our own psychology, and it's the biggest problem. And so what they do is that the establishment has got primates beating each other up, knocking each other over their heads with bones and things like that, and thinking that we're so evolved, which we haven't. We're not evolved. We don't even understand ourselves. We don't understand each other. We don't understand different cultures. We don't understand the different colors and the races and whatever it is. We don't understand that, and you can't even talk about it. That's why I can't get specific in what I'm saying. And so we can't learn or teach from each other. There's no point. Because as soon as you do, you're creating the division. And then you're saying, well, you higher than the other, or you lower than the next, or you implying this. So, we're also sensitive. It's like, well, you can't even start. And this is what frustrates me, folks. This frustrates me tremendously. And I can't get into conversation with a lot of people because this is just also apparently much on a higher level for them. So again, you talking about this not from a place of identity, not from you're talking about an observer of the human experience, of the evolution of the planet. That's what you're talking about. And they're like, no, you're not. You're saying that you're more superior, that you got this, and that these people look more like primates, and these ones don't, and these ones are more intelligent, and these ones are more barbaric, and which is a little bit true. I'm saying there is truth in that, and that's kind of what I'm saying, but not from the point of view of trying to, insult or control or manipulate anybody else, or whatever it is. Respect all life. And that's the biggest problem. That's what people didn't figure out in the history of this country, the brutality of the history of this country, the division, apartheid and things like that. It's what they didn't work out. They didn't understand this. They didn't know how to deal with this correctly. So they just enslaved the people, right? The people didn't just enslave the natives of any kind of country, called them natives, which they belonged on the planet. They just came there and they turned them into the slaves, right? Because they didn't know how to not exploit them or take advantage of them, and understand their cultures, and to learn from one another, and to merge ourselves with all our different views, skills, spirituality, consciousness, or whatever it is. I very much appreciate a lot of the mysticism and spirituality of the African. I'm African. I'm born here, but I'm saying of the. I don't even know the word to say, but you know what I mean. So, and they're very spiritual people. The black people are very spiritual. Can talk to them a lot about spirits and ghosts and ancestors that have passed on and whatever it is, and just magic, and it's often black magic, but they're much more in touch with it. When I speak to a white person, they say it's hocus pocus, a lot of it. I don't know. It just really frustrates me that I can't really talk about this. I mean, I am kind of talking about it, but not really, not so directly. But this is so important, so we can bloody well understand what's going on here, and so we can appreciate the differences that there really is, and that we are all one in a sense of having an experience, right? And where we come from and where we are all going. But there's massive differences biologically, psychologically, right? I mean, some cultures or some races are better at sports than others in certain sports, right? It's just the way it goes. Some have just got more, I don't know, like soul, in the way that they dance and the way that they move, right? The way they feel the rhythm. As they say, white men can't jump, which is not necessarily true, but you get what I'm saying. Soul, jazz can be played, but I mean, it's mostly known by, or by black people, by black artists and whatever it is. The words are wrong, folks. The words are wrong that we use. That's how we've been divided by the language, right? We shouldn't have such contrasting words, black and white. I mean, essentially, this also like really ticks me off. I'm sorry, I'm just getting carried away here, but the idea that Jesus is a white man, it just doesn't do well. I've never really liked the idea of Christianity in Africa. I believe Christianity was put into Africa so it could be easily conquered. It could be divided from, and removed from their roots, from their traditional cultural roots, and upbringing or whatever it was, and westernized completely. And this idea of the white man is your savior. This is huge. This is so problematic. This is absolutely psychologically traumatizing and uprooting and upset and unsettling. It's terrible. And I'll often talk to the black individual about the idea that Jesus is a white man and how do you feel about that? And a lot of them don't feel happy about it, but it's Jesus and Jesus is Jesus, But he's your savior. You understand the psychological problems with this. It's terrible. And when I have been to churches and, whatever it is, and I hear the songs on the radio, on the churches, I'm saying the black churches mostly, or whatever it is. Again, I don't like to use that word. And they're talking about Jesus is your savior and Jesus has come in your name and Jesus will do this and Jesus will heal the sick. And so what color is Jesus? Jesus a white man. Oh. You see, and that's the biggest, for myself, really, what I've been trying to empower in the black person is that the white man is no different, is not to be put on any pedestal. The white man is flawed just as much as anybody else, is not to be looked up to, in a difference for their white skin. And then you can, not those traits, you can look at the artistic, creative traits, the soul traits, but don't look at it and feel yourself as inferior. Don't feel yourself just because the white man came here with cars and cameras and, cigarette lighters and whatever it is, and gas stoves and walkie-talkies and telephones, and you had your loincloths, and they feel like, should feel embarrassed. They say, why do you, but you should hold yourself in high esteem. You should say, this is what is your connection. This is what yours relationship. This is your, your practices, for heaven's sake. These are your beliefs. Don't let go of that. Don't acclimatize yourself. Stick to your roots, because as soon as you lose your roots in that way, you lose who you are. And so for so many times the work that I've done on farms and in communities and things like that has just been trying to empower, and say, get the notion that out of that mentality that you don't have what it takes to be a good person, right? That you are excused or not responsible because you don't think that you are of the nature to do that, and that's the problem. I feel like it's a battle that will never be won. I'm saying it's a fight that will never be won. It's this thinking is so ingrained in people. There's differences of the races, and it's just so ingrained. We so don't understand each other. We just so don't. Anyway, it just really frustrates me. And it can't heal. We can't do the healing. We cannot do the healing. If I was multiracial, then it would be fine. If one of my parents was black, and then it would be okay. But it's not okay for me for that reason to take part in the healing and look at the trauma, the ancient trauma that's going on here in all races, because we've all been traumatized, and we need to heal, and I don't know when that healing will come about, and the people of this country or this continent as well, and other whatever. I'm just saying, let's just say this country, they need to understand that what's going on. They don't need to, but it would really tremendously help them and understand the law of the jungle, right? That's well alive. And if they could understand that, if they could look into nature and look at themselves and say, I exactly see what's going on. I see how we're being dominated. I see how, the how what the rule of the law is here. And I can understand that, and with my knowing, with my gnosis, you know, I can win this game in a sense. I'm saying I can, no longer be controlled by it. I can be a free agent, free person, and free in spirit. All right, folks. Thanks for taking the time. Chat soon.